Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. Today I am going to do my bullet journal setup for August. Now at the time of filming this I was actually unwell, so you will have to excuse my dressing gown sleeves in the picture. I am currently just sketching in some ideas. I had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted the spread to look like, but I was still kind of winging it. I probably should have planned it out a little better considering I wanted to film it. You'll see me sort of hesitate here and there through the proceedings, flip back and forth. But you know what? This is actually how I work. This is actually how I think. So maybe it's not such a bad thing for you guys to see that everybody is human. I pretty much thought I really wanted to do, what's the word? An illuminated letter, I suppose, for August. And even though it is definitely winter here in Australia, for some reason I had this theme of like, not oak leaves, sort of like maple leaves in my head, and I couldn't quite get it out of my brain. So here I am fiddling around with different ideas, and it's a little hard to see on the sketch, but I'm actually messing with where the branches are going to go as opposed to the lettering. And I was kind of hoping that it would show up a little more so that you could sort of follow along. There's a chance maybe from here on in that I might just film from the fine lining point. If you guys have an opinion on a preference of what you'd prefer to see, please let me know in the comments section down below, because I like to see an artist's process from start to finish, but it's a little bit redundant if you can't really see what I'm actually drawing because the Pilot Color Eno pencil is so pale. Here I have got out my Sakura Micron fine liner in a 0.2, and I am finally fine lining all of that in. So you can see now that I've got that sort of maple leaf look with the vines and the larger A, the letter A, and I'm just kind of putting in the basic details there. And I sort of wanted the actual body of the word to be a little bit thicker, so I have gone back in with my Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen in soft. It is nearly running out. It is just about had its day, but I am sort of a bit of a stickler for those things, and I will keep using it until it doesn't go anymore. So I'm just going in with my eraser now and just taking out the little bits and pieces that hang over the edge, the way that I like to do. And I decided I wanted to put the calendar for August on the front. I really like that as a feature, even though I don't really reference it. It's nice just to have their sort of decorative aspect. So I grabbed an offcut of dot grid paper that I had previously print out on my printer, and I'd actually cut it down for some pages in a journal that I've been making, which you guys will see soon. And what I thought was, if I just use the scrap, draw the calendar out on it, back it on some pretty scrapbooking paper. So I've grabbed out my guillotine and I'm sort of measuring there and measuring the paper and how do I want it to fit and how do I want to cut it. And I kind of had that little bit poking out that I really wanted to use, and it was just sort of like, and in the end I thought, yep, I'm gonna use that. So I marked it in order to make sure I cut it accurately and chopped it out. And then I'm just going to mount the calendar on top of that little square. So I love that scrapbooking paper. I'm going to be so sad when that's gone. I really love the colors, the navy and the pink and the gold. And the good thing about having that little bit of scrapbook paper there is that it gave me a reference point for a color palette for when I came to painting or coloring in the heading. So I'm just taping it down with double-sided tape. It doesn't need to be super secure because it's inside the pages of a book. And I was really happy with how that looked sort of sitting. It just fitted really nicely. So now I've got my watercolor palette out, which you've all seen before, and I picked a sort of plummy color that I thought would be really, really nice complement to the plummy color that's kind of in the scrapbooking paper. And then I've got like a dark khaki sort of olivey green, which also matched tonally with the scrapbooking paper for those sort of, even though I'm calling them maple leaves, I don't know whether they look like sort of triple pronged oak leaves. So I kind of just made the shape up, but I really, really liked how they looked. I did want to add to the vines, and I wasn't quite sure exactly where I wanted to add and how I wanted to add. So I'm sort of procrastinating here, adding depth to the leaves with a sort of paler, leafy kind of green, while I'm thinking to myself, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I put my hand in the wet paint there. That's what just happened. So here I thought, you know what? Those little tiny white blossoms that are on the scrapbooking paper, what if I replicate those on the spread? They might be cute on the vines. So I've just grabbed my pencil and I'm mapping them in to see if I like the way that it looks. And I really did. So I once again grabbed my Micron and put them in for good. And yeah, I think it was a really cute tie-in to take the element that I've seen on the scrapbook paper and then transfer it over into my actual drawn art. And I decided, some of the blossoms in the scrapbooking paper are white, some of them are yellow. Yellow's not really my thing, but I'll paint them yellow. So I grabbed my water brush and I got like a beigey color and I didn't like it. And then I sort of thought, okay, I'm going to have to do them yellow. And yellow is my least favorite color, if you're wondering why that is a hesitation for me. So as I was putting the yellow down, I was like, yes, it's tonal, but it's yellow. So I decided that I would use some pink and make little dots in the center. And then I was really happy because you had kind of like a sunsetty effect with the yellow on the outside and the pink sort of bleeding through the watercolor paint, which, yeah, like I said, made me really happy. So here I'm just now filling out the gaps that are left on that vine work. Just adding some little curlicues and some little tiny leaves to just sort of, I don't like my vines to be completely empty. I like them to feel sort of fuller. They don't have to take over the page, and in this circumstance I certainly wanted them to be an accent rather than a complete takeover. But I did feel it was a little bare without them, and I'm really glad I put the leaves on. So I chose a shade of green for this, which was slightly different to the olive color of the maple leaf sort of leaves. They're not maple leaves, but, you know, I'm just going to call them that. And I was really happy with what I chose. It was sort of like a dark, almost dirty teal, I suppose. But it did match with the paper. It's probably a little hard to pick up on the camera. That one I smudged completely and tried to fix and ended up making it worse. But never mind. So yeah, I was really happy with how it looked in the end. You're going to see me here deciding whether I want to add something at the top and then thinking I didn't know what to add. So I decided to leave it and come back later. The actual word August ended up a little further down on the page than I probably would have liked in the finish. But what can you do? That's what art's about, people. It's about just going with the process and enjoying the process. So here I decided to do my monthly goals page. I don't have a huge amount in the way of a monthly setup with my bullet journal at the moment because I sort of use it as a journal as well, even though I haven't done a lot of that lately. I've been busy and then I was sick and oh my goodness, it's crazy. Life has just been so crazy. But I don't really track my habits or my moods or anything like that. I did use an expense tracker last month, which you saw me draw up, and I was really excited about that. And then I bought all of like one thing. So I think it's got like one, you'll see when I eventually do a flip of my bullet journal, but it's got one thing written in it, I think. And I was just like, okay, so there's no point me drawing that again. But I do really like the monthly goals page. I like to have a page where I write down what goals I achieved according to the list that I set out last month, and then what goals I'd like to achieve this month. And a lot of the time it's a nice surprise because I often forget to flip back and check my goals page. So when I'm doing up the new one and I'm checking back with the old one, I'll be like, oh, I achieved that goal and I didn't even realize. So I probably shouldn't admit that, but that is usually the way that my little brain works. So I am just drawing in a little illustration here that I thought would be appropriate. It's probably a little high up on the page, but when the whole thing was said and done, it was really, really cute and I was happy with it. But when I'm at this point, when I'm sketching, I'm thinking, oh no, you've drawn him up so high, you've chopped half his head off, it's going to look really weird. But it was all right. So you can't really tell from the sketch, but it's actually going to be Link from The Legend of Zelda and his little fairy Navi. You can kind of see it. I'm a big Nerdy Girl fan, and Link is one of my all-time favorite characters, if not my all-time favorite character. Oh, it's going to be a close call between Link and Pikachu, I would have to say. The downside of Pikachu is that he's yellow, so I don't draw him as much, but he's easier to draw, but he's yellow. So I used a dark grey Tombow there to do the thicker lines for the box, and then I've got my Sakura again to fine line in the edges. I have to be careful with the Tombows because I love them so much, but they're not waterproof. So if I get a little excited with my watercolors, I do make them run. But you know what? That can actually work in your favor because I've seen some beautiful art done by people sort of using their Tombows as watercolors. I haven't gotten into it a whole heap myself, but it is something I would like to give a go one day. I don't have a massive range of Tombows. Every time I go to Officeworks, I pick one up here and there because I do enjoy doing brush lettering with them, but I haven't really explored their full potential an awful lot. So I decided that Link was needed a cup of Hylian tea. So I've given him a little mug, and you can see me there touching up the box again. And then I just picked up what I thought was a good green match, seeing as Link is predominantly drawn in green, to write my heading, and then, yep, just touch up the box. So I was really happy in the end, but I probably could have, like if I did this spread again, rather than centering the box like that, I would probably put it a little bit lower, just so that you could see more of Link's head. Now, I'm painting here with my watercolors. Like I've said this a million times before, but this paper does not like my watercolors very much. You can see the wings have got that weird smudge. I was trying to get, like, Navi's quite a pale blue and her wings are even paler, but because of the thin quality of the paper, the heavy pigment just sunk in and I couldn't lift it up. So in the end, I was like, all right, she's just a very dark Navi and she's got those patchy wing spots. And you know what? That is okay. So because it was in such a small amount and I knew that the August cover page on the other side was also a little low, I was content with using the watercolors on Link's sort of body and head and all that, because I knew that it was very unlikely to interfere with what was happening on the back. And also this particular water pen, it doesn't put out a lot of water at one go unless you squeeze it and then you've got like an avalanche. But if you just use it very sparingly and very carefully, it's pretty good for even crappy paper like this. And you know what? I'm not fussy on crappy paper. It doesn't stress me at all to have crappy paper. I think it's nice to have a challenge sometimes to work within your boundaries of what you got. And I'm a big believer in go deeper, not wider. A little shout out there to Courtney at Little Raven Ink, who taught me that concept, where instead of just always looking for new, to make the most out of what you've actually got and turn it into something, which is something that I really, really need to do, because I have an insanely large bookshelf full of blank notebooks, just like this one, that need some attention. So I'm just adding in some shading there in a darker green to give him a little bit of depth, and I was pretty happy with that. And then I'll do the same sort of with his shoulders, and then I think I'd do it with his neck as well. Oh, no, I'm going to colour the cup in first. I decided the cup needed to be like Hylian Shield blue, so that was sort of the look I was going for there, and I'm pretty happy with that as a colour contrast. And of course it had to have a Triforce on it, which I made this beautiful golden yellow and then stuck my hand in and then had to fix it up, which you'll see that in a minute. You know, that's just what happens when you're doing art. Yep, see, I just stuck my finger on it and I've gone, oh, great. Yeah, happens to everybody. That's the perils of watercolor, I'm afraid. So I'm now writing out my actual goals. I'm checking the goals from last month, writing down what I actually achieved, which I was pretty happy considering the hectic month that I had. I was very impressed with what I managed to get done. And then I'm now writing the goals that I've got for this month. I keep my goals fairly loose because I'm very critical of myself. So I am likely to look at my goals and be like, oh, look at all these things you didn't do. So I keep my goals really loose and sort of rollable, if you know what I mean. Things like just keep editing your novel and things like that, which I'm going to do anyway. So it's a bit hard to fail. So that is it. Thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.